Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, everybody in between and all over the world, it is my pleasure to welcome you here to the battle for the top of Pool D, the reigning, defending European champions in the white corner. You know those terrible toddlers, those upstarts of a bygone era, because let's be honest, they've been an established power for a long old time. GRUT showing off that power right now. That was Daniel Epstein getting the big grab on the opening point. Lola Dam with the shot all the way downfield to Linda Witz collecting. And then they're going to recycle. They're going to take their time. That leader, that champion among men, Walt Janssen, didn't want to force anything, gets the quick pop, a little bit of give-go action between himself and Jakob Dunshern, and Dunshern punches in the first break. They go 1-0 up. GRUT over the Leamington Lemmings. Both teams 2-0 coming into this, Rachel.
Yeah, both teams having had a fairly easy game against Glasgow and then a much tougher game against Manchot. Both sides seeking their victory by just 2 or 3 points. And now coming up against each other, but so far seemingly reasonably evenly matched.
As we see the Leamington Lemmings hoping to send themselves on a far from suicidal run. There's a battle downfield and brilliant body positioning. Daniel Epstein showing why he was such an important defensive addition 2 years ago to this team, and he has been absolutely fantastic for them ever since. Janssen centers it into the middle. This is quick fire action that we have come to expect from GRUT. Working well, Martin Brouwer gets it into the middle, and there the waiting hands of Morrison. Gets it again, Brouwer and Morrison just working together. Morrison looking to find a flick, or looking to find a break. And that's a dainty little cut by Walt Janssen to get free. And then he unleashes one, shooting all the way downfield. He's looking for Coolin, and he finds her. 2-0.
That was so well read by Coolin. Really great to attack that space. The Lemmings defender just slightly behind, maybe caught slightly unawares, able to recover a lot of that ground, but Coolin just read that perfectly, stepped right into that, made sure that she was positioned to be at the perfect intersection of where she could attack the disc, and made sure that the defense did not have a play on that. Similar to what we just saw, as you see here down the other end, defensive positioning or making sure that your offensive positioning is defensive, so that you're the only one with the play is really just already coming out the gate, showing the class of this GRUT side. So that is 2 breaks out of the gate for GRUT against Lemmings. Both teams battling to try and top this pool. 2 games each today. Lemmings receive to that far sideline. Back into the middle, and a deep shot goes up. It's trailing away. And despite a huge effort, Nathan Sanders not able to recover. Look to get the miss moving quickly. Epstein not seeing any good options downfield, lots of coverage. Lola Dam trying to get up there, but quick recovery from Lemmings, and then a quick dish into the end zone. We'll see them on the scoreboard, managing to get that turn back. 2-1. GRUT starting the game with 2 turns, but Lemmings getting the disc back and putting that one on the board. A little bit scrappy to start. Some heads-up defense, making sure that even though the disc went up and there was a little bit of blown coverage, it was a Lemmings player that ultimately gets a hand to it. Lola Dam doing an excellent job of trying to get there. Perhaps a slightly slower start to the game that Lemmings would have wanted, but they're in it now, on the board, broken that ground. And now we see disc going up. That's received inbounds and centered. Molnar not finding good options downfield. Colotz. It's a high disc from Colotz, but it's well brought down. GRUT struggling to find space downfield. Lemmings putting a lot of pressure on. Recycled. Jansen. Finds Molnar. Back to Jansen. Bardell. Swings over the head of Molnar. Minard getting high for that one. GRUT finding the resets, but just not able to make yards downfield. Lemmings putting a lot of pressure on. The inside break slices through to Molnar, but there's a pick called in the stack.
Really great interplay between Minard and Molnar right now. You can see how aggressively they both make those cuts. I've been singing Minard's praises all season long for several years.
Swung to Colotz. Looking for a reset. Coverage from Lemmings. A bailout throw put high, but they're not able to come down with it. Lemmings defense doing their job right now, putting so much pressure downfield on GRUT. They're not able to find those downfield options. The handlers are having to reset, and they're under so much pressure. You see there a bit of a frustration, and that one just given back to Lemmings.
Miras, Michaela coming under, and an incredible grab. I think it was David Cubitt. And that's a missed throw. Philip Molnar reacts very quickly, gets the turn, and they're going right back to it on the other side of the pitch. An opportunity goes begging for the Brits. Jansen to Kalertz. Kalertz sends it back into the middle of the pitch. Witkam sends it to Minard. Minard's on this sideline. Nearby, Lemmings ratchet up the pressure, trying to shut off that dump, but Minard is better. An absolutely ludicrous break throw. And the score 3-1.
Minard, such a phenomenal player. We've seen so much from her this season, really showing her class. She was, of course, the female player on the open team at the Under-24 World Championships this July in Nottingham, representing the Netherlands. The only, I think I'm right in saying, the only female player in history to compete at the U24s at that level for an open team. And just held her own absolutely phenomenally, was such a sensational player for that side, really brought so much to the team, and she's reported that she felt like she learned a lot about new ways of playing and kind of different ways of seeing the space, but she's just such a threat in every single position and every single game, no matter which division she's in, and she's proven that she can do them all.
I think a huge thing is her ability to get free on the mark and the aggressiveness of her dump cutting. You might shut her down for the first option, as many a man thought they did it under 24s, but that second, that third move, she almost like she's playing chess. She's 2-3 moves ahead of you the whole time. She's just setting you up so that she can knock you down and go get free somewhere else. And then when she gets the disc in hand, she's got a couple of tricks up her sleeves as well. Anna Minard, an absolute pleasure to watch her games. But Lemmings really have had quite a season for themselves, announcing themselves on the stage. Getting that turn there is a big deal. There's the shot. They're not backing away from their game, even if it's difficult for them to stay close to the disc at times. Again, that shot was on, much like the earlier deep shot. They're getting steps on the GRUT defenders. They're just not quite connecting on these long throws.
It's so important that Lemmings are threatening those deeps. They're making sure that GRUT are having to respect both their unders and their deep shots, and that really kind of puts them on the back foot defensively. But if Lemmings are going to keep executing them like that, we've seen two or three already long shots are just, they've been good options, but they've been executed poorly. And for them to be considered real threats in that deep space, they're really going to have to turn that around.
Elisa Boss sends a beautiful leading pass for Morrison, who immediately launches one, looking for Epstein all the way down the field, and he pops it in for a score and another break. GRUT go 4-1 up.
Andrew's just giving Epstein a few steps. We saw he made some separation early on, and that disc is always going to go. We've seen how GRUT play. They love to hit those long shots. If they're on, they will take it, and they execute them flawlessly. And so just giving the few steps early in that midfield area and giving all that deep space for attacking into is just not something that's going to be a good defensive strategy for Lemmings.
And some rough seas right now for the Lemmings. But all that time spent practicing with the Royal Yacht Club might do them well as they try to find their way back into this matchup. But GRUT, after looking perhaps a little bit vulnerable at times this season, I think people more than usual have felt like they could take a chunk out of them, really stepping up their game today. Like you said, they had a relatively close match against Manshot, fairly dismissed Glasgow, but right now when it's all on the line in the biggest moments, much like the Windmill final, this is where they play their best. So here come Lemmings, looking to find a foothold. They've got a score, they've got a turn as well, though they weren't able to take advantage of it as they go up against this GRUT zone. As Alistair Orr, he's going to have to help paddle his team back into this matchup. Partridge Orr again has the disc. Orr being marked by Janssen to Partridge. And that's Partridge, sits into it, scoops it, and sets it up to be chased down and collected. That's a lot more like it for Oliver May.
Yeah, that's absolutely what we're talking about. If you're going to execute the long shots like that, then GRUT are going to have to take them seriously. So far, they've had a couple miscues, a couple of poor executions on those shots, but you could really see that play progressing. You could see the cuts under. You can see them working to make their defense on the back foot and create that separation. And we can see here, as that went up, he's already got 3 or 4 meters on his defender. And that one was perfectly weighted, that beautiful kind of IO, making sure that it goes around the defender and just sits out in front and nicely kind of slowly comes back down right in the path of the cutter. And yeah, that's how you're going to do it. And so glad to see that Lemmings are able to make that adjustment. And I hope that's something they maintain, because it's been such a critical and lethal part of their game, is that they are so adaptable. They are a real threat in the underspace, but equally will happily take on these deep shots and have phenomenal receivers.
And Andy Partridge with the shot, you know he's going to want to take a lot of those coming out of Warwick, who used to be quite the force in the varsity scene in the UK, but thanks to Lemmings, kind of making a bit of a recovery. He learned to play back at Swansea University. And here come GRUT on the offensive side. Molnar to Blasman. And Blasman launches one. He's looking for Coulertz. 2 Lemmings in the area, but they're not going to get anywhere near that one. A comfortable clap catch. 5-2. So Tom Blausman, only 20 years old, but really stepping up this season. You can see with throws like that exactly why he's been doing it. Of course, GRUT finishing 5th in Worlds last year. A huge achievement. Most of this team here. And honestly, if it wasn't for a couple of unfortunate injuries at key moments, I really thought they had a legitimate push for that title. Though I also thought that in 2018, in fairness, except for them running into wildcard. Like, they should have won that opening game.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the story of this team is that they're always knocking on the door of these big championships and these big moments, and they have absolutely all of the elements. And we sort of don't want to keep going on about it. At some point over the years, we might give them a break and stop talking about how young they are. But that is a really key point, right? Is that they were threatening that in 2018. They've been threatening that last year. They've got a very, very young athletic crop of players who have the longevity, right? They've started early. They've got this skill this early on. They're threatening, you know, when they were in their teens, and now they've still got really long careers ahead of them, and sort of the only way is up, really. But yeah, just all of these processes, all of these games, working out how to come together and keep that threat alive.
Talking about keeping that threat alive, this is better by Lemmings. Nice little bit of switching, getting everybody involved. And that's a real strength of this Lemmings team. It's Pantling with the disc in hand. But they trust everybody on their line with that disc. That one's going to come back on a pick call. So David Wilson sends it back to Pantling. Pantling marked by Fierle Janssen. Another Janssen on the team. And Pantling with a lovely inside dish gets it across to Wilson. And Lemmings keep the good times going. Daly. And this is fantastic quick movement. Pantling across to Wilson again. Everybody's trying to get free. A delicate back or flick to Mark Lou. Mark Lou's right outside the end zone. Not going to look to force anything. He has Wilson, goes with the blade to him. Outside in, there's the hammer. And it's comfortably collected. Great vision and understandable decision making.
It's so exciting as this game progresses. That sort of play is so kind of reflective. It's the kind of style that we often see from GRUT, and it's such a kind of a, I don't know, a great matchup to see that they can kind of play them at their own game and put in shots like that, you know, working it up so calmly. Lemmings doing an amazing job of really maximizing when GRUT are trying to be smart on defense and trying to like sort of do too much. We see they're just finding the player in space over the, and then a nice high over the top to secure the score for Rosie Coward. But yeah, the way that Lemmings really worked that up the field was being smart and working in the small spaces that GRUT were providing them. We're sort of seeing GRUT trying to position themselves, maybe not super close to the Lemmings offensive player, but sort of smartly. But actually what that means they're doing is they're trying to cover a little bit more than just their particular player. And it means if you're happy to make those inside-out shots, as we saw from this home sideline, and really attack that space, you can really make yards and open up the game, which Lemmings did so well in that last point.
And they'll need to keep doing that to stay in this game. Blasman with a smooth scuba over the top. Colertz has the disc, collected it off Bardol. And a gratuitous scuba back to Blasman. Blasman has to be said. Dunshire, oh, sorry. That is actually Philip Molnar. Ulti.TV zone. Recent veteran of Glastonbury. You can see everything he learned as he made his way to a final in that tournament, playing with Flakes and Twirls. Shot across to Colertz. Catches it, just inherently knows where to keep her feet. Shot on the top to Vickham, and there, GRUT showing their style, but maybe a bit too adventurous. Wanted to get to Blasman. Only really hit the dirt behind the back corner.
We know that GRUT like to play an aggressive style and really just have the throws to hit players wherever they are. They're maybe just trying to throw the player in a bit more towards the end zone. The player was already open, so they didn't need to be sort of thrown open, but just not coming together. And I guess Lemmings doing a good job to put pressure on them, but GRUT just sort of handing it back.
An immediate huge hook all the way back, and Blasman chases it down and tears it out of the sky. It was a nice shot by Andy Partridge, but it sat just a bit too much. And the air patrol in the form of Blasman. I think that's one ticket for Get Wrecked Airlines, please. And here they come right back at them. Lemmings will need to be a little bit more conservative with that disc in hand, I think. Dunshire. Were Lemmings able to set up this zone-ish kind of look? Looking to just clog up the deep space. Blasman. Nice little quick give go with Jansen. And Menard, and then a hammer. He's always going low, but on his knees to collect it on Shern and slowing down not a bit, Bardwell. Menard, Dunshire, Vickham, Colertz, bobbles, catches. Oh, and they're going to call her straddling the line when she had it in control. An interesting one, I got to tell you, that's what I would do.
Yeah, challenging. A catch and then a bobble. Her inside foot was down on the first contact, but whether she had her outside foot down when she bobbled it, it certainly seemed to be on or outside the line.
The call is retracted. It's difficult to read with the line that far away. But again, the team's agreeing and happy to continue. Colertz. Back to Menard. Blasman calling for it. Back to Menard. And he absolutely sends his mark, and now they're off to the races. Just just between the two of them. A little give-go action to get right in front of the end zone. Blasman makes the move. Coullerts finishes it off. 6-3. So Lemmings are getting the turns, or certainly have gotten some turns, I suppose I should say. But they've really struggled to convert them, to take advantage of those opportunities, and you can't give GRUT too many bites at your throat. They'll tear it right out.
Definitely. I do think that the Lemmings defense is really doing its job. Like, they're sort of, as you say, they're getting turns, but equally we're seeing GRUT having to take. We know they like to play creatively, but we're really seeing them having to take like interesting shots. And we saw right when they were down, sort of in their own. When they had the turn at this end zone, when they're sort of trying to shoot the whole field, they're having to make these swings really out to space. The players are really having to put in a lot of effort to get there because the downfield area has been really stifled. Lemmings anticipating the movement, able to kind of position themselves well. We've seen them maybe being a little bit poachy, a little bit kind of smart about how they're setting up their defense, and putting a lot of pressure on the GRUT handlers, and making it hard for them to find good downfield options. Which is maybe forcing some creativity from GRUT, which we know they're happy to throw, but maybe it's not always kind of coming together in the way they anticipate now.
Here come Lemmings once more. Daly looks off. Coward goes down the line instead. And there's another huge shot from Lemmings and another disc drifting out of bounds. These are just not coming off for them right now. I think they need to like start putting a bit more edge on some of these chucks. They're either going out of bounds, drifting slowly out of bounds, or floating too long and allowing the GRUT defenders to catch up. Their cutters are creating separation. The throwers need to adjust.
Yeah, I think they're 1 for 4 on those deep shots now. Only one of them has been executed in the way that would enable it to come off. The others have not been catchable.
Molnar, the big shot all the way across the slob. And another huge gainer, Lola Dam. Back to Molnar in acreage. Epstein. Molnar. Quick uprush, and now that they get into slightly more confined space, Lemmings able to clamp down with this defense a bit more. Morrison gets the resense to Slob. Nice stutter step. Good switching, but it does leave that backfield dump open. Dunshern gets low. Sends it down the line to Morrison. And then the quick shot in for the score. There might be a pick called. Nope, it's been retracted. And that's Molnar picking it up. Professional.
Yeah. It feels like a bit of the commentator's curse there, talking about how effective the Lemmings defense has been. And then in that possession, I'm not sure that there was any kind of defensive pressure. You know, we saw some really decisive cutting from GRUT, and they were finding that space really nicely, attacking deep and then making those quick turns to come under. And it seemed like every single time they turned the shoulder, they had acres of space to come into. They're coming under, but they're coming under from a relatively deep position, meaning they're making big gainers all the way down that far sideline, and then ultimately into the end zone. And we saw that was an up the line cut. The defender's on the back foot and just has to just give up and recognize that they've been beat.
A couple of blown switches and not quite reacting on time. They've definitely got the ambition, but can they match it in action? 7-3, GRUT in the ascendancy with, let's be honest, where they belong.
We live in a world where everything can be referenced online. Imagine if the greatest moments in our sport were never filmed. Eurodisc continues to do what it takes to make free-to-watch live streams a reality. Let's leave nothing to the imagination. We'll consume the action live, and we'll support those that help to make it happen. If it wasn't streamed, it didn't happen. Eurodisc.
What a grab! Oh my! Somehow they do it! we are back. As you see Katma with the disc. Lemmings still trying to fight their way into this game. They don't want to give up another break. Going 8-3 at half. They've got so much to learn. This is their first visit, perhaps their second visit to EUCF. But they've been rising in stature all season long. Daly with the disc. A surgeon, precise, takes her time. You're not going to ruffle her feathers. Katma, and they keep swinging it across. Once in the hands. Downfield of Coward. Rosie Coward, a really lethal cutter. So Lemmings taking their time, not forcing anything. Waiting, somebody get free. Katma's trying to come through. Huge bid from Epstein. He's left grasping air. But far from gasping for breath. This GRUT team can run all day. So Katma. Wilson makes the defensive cut, but Katma doesn't like his options. He shoots for the back, and an amazing grab. Take a bow, Ben Andrews.
Stall out seems to have been called.
Boo!
Yeah, heartbreak to see an amazing bid like that from Ben Andrews. Potentially have to go back, or potentially be a turnover. They'll resolve it on field. It was certainly high in the stall count, but just for the viewing pleasure, we want that play to stand. Ben Andrews putting in an absolute shift to receive that under a huge amount of pressure. Yeah, that was really well worked from Lemmings. Great that they had Wilson to be able to come back and just take that reset. Bringing it in on stall 8 is a pretty nervous moment for the team, particularly when the whole reason you're on stall 8 is because there haven't been good options downfield. Oftentimes you just have to lob something and hope for the best, but that was really nicely executed. A nice sort of swing that sits out into space. Wilson able to collect, and then they just work it in and attack this home sideline. Great play from Lemmings. Yeah, and a nice dynamic of they had a few cuts coming back. They had someone to reset to. I was a little bit nervous that perhaps they'd be a bit too end zone hungry and the cuts would all sort of stay in the end zone despite the fact that the disc had swung back a fair distance. But they played it well. They found that reset that kind of covered half that ground and then put that really nice arcing backhand into this home side, into that open space, and had a Katma to receive. Sasha Haynes putting in an absolute shift to support her teammate there. Recognised that they needed a bit of support and went to work. that was a low pickup. Yeah, way to keep that one up. Some really sort of determined cutting into the underspace, but GRUT are doing a really good job of containing them, and it means the cuts are kind of having to come to the open side, but they're having to come really quite shallow, so cutting really close to the disc, and it means it's really clogging up those channels. We've had a few times where maybe it looked like someone was going to go deep, but we've had cutters almost directly in front of the disc, and those throws just cannot go. Yep. Nathan Sanders, number 9, doing his all to get down there. Saw that that was going to go. Janssen making such a great cut, had separation. Sanders just putting in the biggest amount of effort, everything he had to try and get that block. Yeah. Janssen set up that cut beautifully, had the separation, and yeah, Saunders trying really hard to put some pressure on it, but it's she's a player that's hard to shake, hard to get under her skin. She's very confident and sort of demonstrating it there. Very happy to comfortably receive that past the bidding form of Nathan Sanders. Yeah, Deep Space are over on another field playing against Monkey Grenoble. They are currently up 6-4, but that looks like that's going to be a tight game. We saw Monkey Grenoble on this field just previously, and they're a very formidable side. both sides battling to try and stay in contention for that top spot. Monkey Ranelagh going to need to beat Deep Space if they want to take the top of the pool. Tartu Turbulence are now 5-5 against Leftovers. Again, it just seems like this is a pool. All the games so far have been so tight. There's sort of been a maximum of 3 points in it. That's the most that any team has won by in this pool. And it seems to be the story across the divisions here. The women's division, the mixed division, I'm sure haven't yet commentated on an open game, but I'm sure it's the same story there. You know, we see these pools that are just everything to fight for. You usually have kind of stronger and weaker teams, but we're really seeing a huge mix-up and some upsets across the board. Yeah, you can put probably just about the whole team on her, and I think I'm still backing her to bring it down. She's just phenomenal. Again, knows exactly how to position herself. Such a sensational receiver, and I mean a threat all over the field. She's shown that time and time again, but once again receiving that under pressure without breaking a sweat.
So GRUT very much in the driver's seat, 9-4 up against the Leamington Lemmings as they look to drive them off a cliff. These Lemmings have minds of their own. Daly sends that down the line, and when they get going, they're hard to stop. Evie Harms wants to get it back into the middle. He's looking for Andrews, finds him. Daly's available in the dump space. Coward straight ahead of him. Takes the challenging break throw to Marklew. Marklew throws it down. Kapma has Marklew behind him. Gets it to him. Nice little lefty flick. That is a lovely drop shoulder flick break into the middle, and Andrews waiting for it. Rosie Coward with the sweeping cut. Hoping somebody gets free. Eventually Kapma does. Under much duress from Epstein, and there's a bit of a collision downfield. I believe that was Morrison colliding with Alex Marklew. So Kapma looks for the break. Get one to Marklew, just escaping the outstretched fingers of Morrison, and then the pop into Evie Harms. 9-5.
A great show from Lemmings. Happy to work it in, happy to stay calm, happy to keep recycling it, finding occasionally a slightly more challenging option through the middle, but ultimately just resetting, waiting until a good option comes up and not trying to force anything, which might not be the most exciting play that they've ever done, but is certainly going to be important to make sure they're cherishing the possession and they're keeping their holds.
I think it was good to see Lemmings play without looking to the huck straight away. I feel like it's not a coincidence that they were able to punch it in so effectively with that approach.
Yeah, the long game has been a challenge for them so far this game. We've seen, I think, one come off very, very nicely, and then maybe four, I think, have been, 3 or 4 have been poorly thrown, not necessarily a bad option, but just like poorly executed and been a sort of impossible to make a play on it. We know that's something that is a part of their game and something they can really bring to bear and put teams under threat with. But so far, we haven't really seen that come together. And whether that's just because, you know, GRUT put a lot of pressure on, they know that they're fast, they know that they're good defenders, they know that they're kind of under pressure to get there. Perhaps the forces are making it hard to put those ones out with the kind of the weighting and the intention that they desire. But yeah, that adjustment would be great to see that. But as you say, when it's not working, sometimes it's good just to dial it back and focus on the fundamentals.
Let's see how GRUT respond. They've been fairly lethal on the offensive side. Blasman Coulert goes deep, points at Janssen to take that open space underneath. She does so. Sets herself up, decides against sending it to Coulert. Has Blasman in the dump space. Goes straight down the line instead to Bardol. And back to Flor Coulert. And they're trying to get the quick pop in. Blasman hesitates for a second. And great heads-up defensive play. Jumping in and getting the block, Joe Bassnett. So Lemmings looking to go the other direction, Erin McGreedy. And there's the high release backhand. It's Huck adjacent. McGreedy going up against Coulert, tries to use the body. And I think they're going to call that incidental contact.
Yeah, it looked like there was that moment you see oftentimes when a receiver's been a bit bumped. They sort of turn and look back and you can see the calculations as they think, what was that a foul? Was there a call there? But in that case, just accepting the contact, bit incidental. And the disc is back with GRUT.
So Alistair Orr is trying to with the help defense, but GRUT immediately take advantage of the open space. There's the reset into the middle. Janssen. You can tell when they get the dump in that much space how hard the Lemmings are working downfield to help each other out, but that's the other side of it. Dunshern back to Blasman. He's got a lot of time to wait for that one into his red basket, and then a smooth scuba over the top. Bardol. Back to Blasman. Dunshern makes a cut to the front corner. Instead, he goes across the Vitcom. Molnar looks for Coulert. Finds her. There's a pick called, though. I think that is Eleanor Nicholson. And then they just go, I thought they were just going to go for the exact same thing again. This time Philip holsters it, gets it back to Blasman, and he throws the break to Coulert. And there's just a knowing nod from my compatriot here in the booth, almost of inevitability. European champions. Their last season is a mixed outfit. They want to go out in a high.
Yeah, very, very true. And I think that, you know, they've had upsets at various different competitions and over the years, but they are a team that know how to like turn it on when they need to. And when they need to kind of really find that groove and make the most of these connections that they've tended and they've grown over the years. You know, there's loads of things that can disrupt that, and I think Lemmings will do their absolute utmost to try and put a block on that and get in the way, but when it comes down to it, it does feel almost like an inevitability. It's like water, you know, watching them play. They sort of flow, and like, you can see the smile on Coulter's face as she goes to receive that. It's an inevitability. She knows it. And I mean, that's not to say that there can't be upsets and there can't be things that goes wrong, but it's just that's the feeling of when it works for them. And like we said, that doesn't always mean it's just like simple ultimate. They play such an interesting game, but yeah, it's really beautiful the way it comes together for them. And Lemmings having a big task to try and keep disrupting, as we have seen them do at different points in this game.
10-5 down. They did get a break in the first half. I believe to make it 5-3. Big layout bid. I think might have arrived a little bit too late. Evie Harms seemed to have that one collected. Linda Witt uncontests it immediately. Harms picks it back up. And down the line to Pantling. And Pantling goes for the leading pass shot. Epstein's in the area, but Kapma says, that's all mine.
Love that shot from Pantling. Love that take from Kapma. That sort of ability to just keep pushing. You know, they're not just going to work it through. They're going to celebrate together. Really beautiful, that connection. So nice. Yeah, just nice ultimate. You know, I don't know what to say about it. It's great to watch, and it's sort of they're really finding the right options and executing them well. And it's a pleasure to to be able to see that, and particularly, you know, that in the mixed division sometimes that can be that little bit more of a challenge, and I think both of these teams do that really well, playing across their lines, and every single player is a threat in so many different ways, and it's so dynamic and brings such like varied dynamics.
A mild dynamism, shall we say.
Dynamism when appropriate.
But I agree with you 100% when you're talking about the general team vibes both these squads bring. I mean, we know that about GRUT. People probably less acquainted with the Lemmings, but definition of a team that plays for each other, plays with each other, and have gotten some absolutely fantastic results through that approach. Odds are they're going to come second in this group, which means that it could be Tartu, it could be Deep Space, it could be Grenoble. None of those are easy games. They will need to gear up for whatever matchup, because all three of those teams will be absolutely coming for them. But this game isn't over yet, and maybe I'll commentary curse inverse sometimes. All of Reading just hanging deep there for a second, going with a little bit of a Japanese zone. They're throwing some stuff out here, seeing what sticks. I like it. Menard looks to Wickham. Well shut down initially, but here comes Molnar on the other side. It gets the quick backhand break across to Coulertz. Thinks about the deep shot, but Lemmings are doing everything they can to force these GRUT cutters under. Right now they force them into a standstill. Bardot comes across the far side with a little bit of a relieving cut. Janssen gets it to Menard. They're working it down outside the end zone. Menard scoops it across to Molnar. But not a huge amount of cutting coming from the stack. Molnar back to Menard. There's the move from Blasman. And it bounces out of his hands. I agree. For those of us who can't see inside the booth, that was just a little bit of a, huh,
yeah,
not bad.
A little bit of a grimace, just sort of unexpected, like, oh, that was...
Didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming at all, but Lemmings gifted a turnover here. Let's see if they can make something of it.
Just dishing it around for now. And we've seen them recycle plenty in that space. Miros gets the bounce off Janssen. I think that should technically reset it. Brilliant leading pass. So much space, just chasing it down and collecting it is Lawrence Howard, and then overthrowing Haynes.
Haynes going up early, trying to attack that disc, but just got a hand to it, and it just wasn't enough. Off the fingertips, that bobbles over her head, and I think the effort to get there, that was very much a leading pass, quite high effort to get there. I mean, she's just going to call an injury. Need to come off and set herself.
And you would expect spectacular grabs like that from Haynes, but understandably working a little bit hobbled right now. So Blasman picks it up, front of the end zone. McGreedy's trying to occupy the space, but again, we've talked about how expansive these throws that GRUT have in their locker. Coulertz, scooper over the top to Menard. It's another adventurous one. Menard loads up, but then puts it back away. Wickham to Molnar. Molnar leads it to Blasman. Howard was trying to steam in there and get the block. Just a split second too late. Blasman takes his mark to the cleaners. And a smooth leading pass to Molnar. His up the line cuts are so deadly. He starts them from so far away and he's really quick. It's very hard to shut down. Nice swinging, resetting. Wickham to Menard. Menard has the option of Blasman. Big bid, but nothing doing. This is tiring work for Lemmings on the defensive side. They're giving it their all. Bardot. Janssen makes the cut to the front corner. Menard's in the middle space. Keeps the swing across. Wickham has Blasman. That is a beautiful backhand break. Good golly. Miss Molly Wickham, what are you doing?
Yeah, that backhand was phenomenal. He sort of stepped around and seemed to put so much curve on the disc that the disc fully went around his defender. Like it had left his hand and it did a full semicircle. And in such a small space, that's really something. You see there the unexplainable drop, just not clear on what happened there. It seemed to be in his grip, and then a return one in the other end zone just pops out of her hands. And here we have GRUT working it round the back, finding those options, and here the curve on that, and yet in such a small space to be able to get so much angle on it, but so much touch, just having it sit out around his defender who was holding that space well. That in theory you should not have been able to get a breakthrow out, but unfortunately GRUT don't play by those rules.
They only play by their own. I think Blasman was so impressed it blew his hat off, blew my hat off too. What a blade. That was technically a blade as well, by the way. So a big pull. Daly sitting underneath it. Nope, just gonna let that go out. So I think that's gonna be picked up by David Wilson instead. And he's flanked either side by Megan Daly and Alex Marklew. 11-6, GRUT to the good right now. We've got just under half an hour left to play. A long walk to the brick mark for Wilson. And a long man waiting for him in the form of Janssen. Daly. Back to Wilson. Back to Daly. And GRUT going with a little bit of a standoffish handler approach, similar to what the Lemmings were trying. Daly thinks about ripping one. Taking her time though. Finds Andrews in the middle. Across to Wilson again. Nice undercut from Pantling. We know that she's got a flick hook of her own. Once they're past the halfway, I don't mind some of the deep looks, or leading passes even, that the Lemmings have taken on. Katma. Had that stellar grab earlier. Huge bid, but nothing can stop Coward when she wants that disc. And there's Andrews. He does the spin cycle, toe drag grab. He deserves it. He gets it, 11-7. Shake your head in disbelief all you want. That's counted.
Yeah, I mean, that was just sensational. I feel like this game keeps sort of stunning me into silence, and my responses have always been non-verbal, which is not super helpful when you're doing commentary, but really, like, some of the plays have just been something else, and that Coward throwing it into that far corner, you know, it was like, oh, doesn't seem like, you know, you need to push it at this stage, but just the kind of the presence of mind to turn around, was facing the other direction, turn around, ends up doing sort of full 180, moves into that space, grabs the disc, but such good presence of mind to keep toes in. That was excellent. He was calling for it. I think that's the thing, is Andrews had his arms up, and so Coward gave it to him, but actually sort of the positioning wasn't maybe quite as expected, but a great adaptation on the fly, and yeah, just a little bit of a hero maker, sure.
I really like that from Coward as well, because when Andrews thought he was completely open, he's like, throw it to me. And she's like, well then fine, I will.
But I'm going to make you work for it.
You're going to go earn it. And that's what should happen. Because whenever cutters are all like, oh, why didn't you throw it to me? It's like, all right, calm down. So I know.
The score is 11-7. GRUT are up. But this feels like a very tight game. You know, they have a comfortable cushion, but Lemmings still 100% in it.
Fighting hard, because that's the only thing they know how to do. Menard with the disc. All closes the gap slowly. Janssen gets it. But you can see they've adjusted. They don't want to get beaten by GRUT's deep game. Back across to Menard. Dunshern. Menard. Wickham working hard in the central space, but apparently being quite well marked by May. Across to Janssen instead. Blasman makes the cut to the front corner. Bass had his hands full all game with that assignment. Dunshern gets low for the flick. Gets it across to Floor. Floor fakes a scuba, throws it on the second chance. And then there's the dainty dish from Blastman, and he just walks off. He's not even interested. 12-7.
Blastman able to cover such ground. Really just moves so quickly across the field, but sort of each step, you know, that pivot, that just moving into throw. We see here, GRUT catching it under, dishes it over the top. You see that as he turns that pivot, like it just, your defense really can't get there. The force, who's put pressure on the under catch, is completely out of place by the time that he's pivoted, and that dish just gives him all the space to put that dish exactly where he wants, comfortably in the path for the score. 12-7. It doesn't feel like the score is 12-7.
I get what you mean. Lemmings are really fighting, keeping it close, but that score from GRUT, they've had a couple of points, they've just looked that confident. And some of them have been by their D-line after getting the turn, some of them by the O-line, just like that.
Yeah, certainly, and we know, you know, GRUT came out firing and took an early lead. But yeah, Lemmings just really kind of putting in the work, and where we've seen a couple, you know, inabilities to convert from Lemmings, GRUT have been closing those down and making sure that they're maximizing opportunities. But Lemmings still really, really in this and fighting for every single pass.
So Pantling with the disc, goes back to Wilson. And back again. You don't mind Pantling having the disc in your backfield. You know she's got some great throws. But right now, the GRUT defense doing a great job of compressing Lemmings. We can hear the call. The Lemmings sideline agrees. Very shallow with their cutters. May, that was a fancy leading pass. Oh, and then the follow-up throw. Alex Marklew, inspired, tries to send his own blade to Daly, but a bit too far ahead. Morrison, that one was close to the ground. They're going to talk about it, but I think Wilson thinks it was down. Marklew's like, no, that was up. Nope, they're going to discuss.
Hoping there might be a replay. The players on the sideline have come to see if they can have a look at our replay screen. Particularly in up-down calls that can sometimes offer a bit of clarity.
There was a lot of zip from Brouwer on this one.
Yeah, players discussing. He definitely had his hands on it, but it's when the catch was secured, because he sort of got his hands on it and then the bottom edge dips down, and if you can't say with certainty that he had control, that, you know, which I think some people on the field are saying, it's yeah, difficult to come to a conclusion on that one. But on field, they've resolved just to send it back.
Jansen. Fierlo Jansen, to be clear. Epstein. Great spreading the disc all the way around, involving lots of players, involving lots of the space. Tenkat gets it back to Morrison. That one was definitely up. Jansen. Big grab under some pressure, although there might be a bit of a discussion. Turnover, Moncau agrees. So Lemmings able to get the turn in the end. Looking to close this gap a little bit. Wilson, slow walking that one. Has Marklew, has Daly in the dump space. Harms, the little shake and bake to create some space in front of the handlers. Epstein closing that door on Andrews as quick as he can. Nice little dish and go between Marklew and Daly. We know Marklew likes to throw him when he gets into that opportunity in that power position. Pantling, huge grab! Incredible scenes! Sends it back to Andrews. Looking for Coward, collects. Coward toes that line very well. Wilson. Daly's making a move. Loses her defender, and Clap Catch collects for the score. The Lemmings got a bit of life. 12-8.
Sensational grab from Pantling. That looked like it was just going to be that fingertip too far. We've seen it time and time again where it just, you know, that we're talking about millimeters almost, but she put the work in, she put her body on the line, put that bid in, and managed to come down with it. Sensational.
There's a reason she's called Persephone. Just when you think it's dead, she brings it back to life.
Very glad to see Daly get the score there. Been very impressed with her play the whole way through this game so far. Such a dynamic player behind the disc, and then also showing that she can really make people work and be a threat in that end zone as well.
Yeah, she really showed Elisa who's the boss in that situation. She roasted her going up the line, and I have no regrets about that pun. Thank you very much. And I assume everybody who's watching at home is also sending me a judgmental look, and you know what? It fuels me. Much like plays like that from Daly, from Wilson, from, of course, Persephone Pantling, fuel the Lemmings. They are far from done. And personally, I'm quite thankful, because this is a really fun game. You keep saying it doesn't feel like the gap is that big. It really doesn't when they're playing each other on the pitch.
I think the key thing is that teams often go a few points down, and you can see it. You can see their heads drop. You can see the attitude shift. You can see oftentimes this kind of borderline sort of desperation in their kind of attitude and their vibe. And I'm just not seeing any of that from Lemmings. They've played every single point like they're in, you know, we're in sudden death, or they're still within one. So even though there is a points difference, they're going to keep fighting.
Great vision by Molnar on the near sideline of Whitcomb. Whitcomb now tries to launch one himself. Great vision. And a huge D! Sprinting across and smashing it away. Erin McGreedy. Well, you don't call her Erin McConservative. She gobbled that one up.
I have no idea how she covered the ground that fast. I really thought she was so far away. I thought great effort from the two Lemmings shirts racing down there to try and assist. But Erin McCready just putting in a shift, getting down there. Oh, and they're just given straight back.
Molnar collects, goes for the scuba over the top, and I mean, props to GRUT. They put the pressure right back on, and that's Morris Whitcomb getting the goal. It shows you Lemmings have 90% of the answers, but it's still not a passing grade.
Yeah, very smart field awareness to know what stall count they're on, know where he's going to be looking, and just move into that space. Molnar again, just
real standout. I think,
a real presence both on offense and on defense. We've sort of said his name time and time again, and just contributing a huge amount to Recruit's success and dominance in this game.
We would be talking about him a lot because he's a teammate of ours as well. But this time it's, you know, it's legitimate. It's not like we're just trying to give shout outs. The guy is really showing his stuff on a packed GRUT team.
Yeah, it's impressive to have your name said and your accolades celebrated so much when you're on a lineup like this. You've really got to do something special, because as we've seen so far this game, there are plays aplenty from both sides. Superstars all over the field.
I really wanted Andrews to send that to Katma. Katma against Dunshern would be a fun battle. Coward's just able to get that. A lot of pressure from Dam. Wilson disc in hand, looking for Marklew. Morrison on his shoulder the whole way. Marcus slows down briefly, sends it to Andrews, keeps going. He wants to play it all the way down. Coward from Evie. And Coward launches one herself. She's looking for Katma. And he goes and gets it. Brilliant grab.
Another phenomenal reception from Katma in the end zone. Oh, a little bit of cramp. Oh, beautiful to see. Team opponents on the field, but will always help each other out in a pinch. Just Katma helping stretch out some cramp.
And that's just being nice. You can see Katma. I was looking for a shot from Andrews when I saw the Katma-Dunshern matchup. He didn't oblige. Rosie Coward did. That's a picture-perfect grab by Katma.
Coward's also bringing some really kind of interesting looks into this sort of red zone area, consistently finding different options and taking on what might be sort of slightly riskier shots, but, you know, back your receivers, and so far they haven't disappointed.
Bringing that extra dimension to the Lemmings offense. Earlier on in this game, it was more through her cutting. It seemed like she was making the impact, but showing you she done disc in hand as well. So the Lemmings 39 down. GRUT receiving the disc. They're going to look to finish this one off professionally and get a nice long rest before they have to go to the quarterfinals tomorrow. We'll see how that goes for them. These two teams, yeah, also battling to just play 2 games tomorrow. So you could have a tournament that goes 3-2-1 if you make it all the way. Blasman. Janssen calls for it. He pulls 3 defenders in. Oh. They don't find Menard in time. Opting instead just take. Oh, it's because there was no mark on Molnar. That makes sense. Big bid! Is that Marklew? No. That was, in fact, Andy Partridge. He's Andy Partridge.
Great heads-up awareness there. Leaping in.
That's a tasty flick break. Going with the high release. Partridge makes himself available. Fakes the brilliant inside flick break. Fakes the around blade. Scoops it inside instead for the score. Well taken in and collected by Eleanor Nicholson. So we have another look. Big layout block by Partridge. And it's plays like that, which is why we're saying it doesn't feel like there's a 3-point difference in this game, 4-point difference at times, even 5. But they are still battling every single point, every single play.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about. That sort of play, just that moment there, from the D to the inside high release flick to the IO break for the score. Those sorts of plays are what are showing the class of this Lemmings side. The score line, you know, it's a cliche to say, but it doesn't. Well, I mean, it's 13-10. If this were another team and you had, it might be time for the comeback. With GRUT, that's going to be an incredibly, incredibly difficult hill to climb. There just isn't potentially enough points left in the game. Although we've often famously made points like that and then been immediately proved wrong, which would be incredibly exciting. But
it's my favorite pastime.
Yeah, just show that like this is still so competitive. Lemmings are still so invested in this, and they have the plays, they have the connections, they have the vision, and they're able to bring it. It's just that it hasn't been necessarily consistent throughout. But when it's worked, it's really worked.
It really has. And speaking of being wrong, I just want to correct myself as well. I think it was Jasmine Hall who got that last grab. But you're hitting the button on the head, shall we say. I am also tired of mixed metaphors. Who doesn't like a good malapropism? Well, here come the Lemmings one more time. Closing exchanges of this game, 13-10. Blasman has the disc. Once again, it's Basnet who has that challenging assignment. Bardol, back to Blasman. Gets it to Janssen, middle of the pitch. He keeps stepping off Janssen when she goes under to get the disc. Menard. Menard gets the swing across. Walt Janssen, 1 foot hammer looking for Blasman. Finding him comfortably, and I think Walt wants to go home.
Yeah, that was a somewhat decisive play to make sure that one goes in, and it just looks casual, you know, like that is not an easy throw, that's not an easy catch for both of them, just making it look like, you know, you're putting the I don't know, paper out in the morning. What do people do? I don't know. But it just looks almost mundane to them. That's what I'm trying to say. Like it's so run of the mill, and for the rest of us mere mortals, that's like exciting, spicy play. And for these guys, that is just another Friday in the park.
When you think about it, yeah, that's what GRUT training looks like, I imagine. Just hanging out in a park in Amsterdam, throwing ludicrous passes to each other.
I think for a lot of people, that's sort of, there's always that element, right? You go throwing and you do your sensible throws, and then you practice the quote-unquote spicier ones, more interesting one, the overheads, the blades, the scubas. But for most of us, they're just not honed to the point of being pinpoint game ready, and you know, the kind of thing you bring out at a European Championship. But for GRUT,
anything and everything's on the table.
Yeah.
14-10. They're going to look to end this game with a break. Lemmings have other ideas. Daly. As Coward has Pantling. Finds Pantling. Kapma. Thought they were trying to set up a side stack cut deep, either by Harms or Coward. They're getting shut down. Katma to Coward on the under. Andrews makes the cut. He's trying to offer a little bit of relief. Pantling with a fantastic grab. He's got clamps for hands. Katma looking for Daly, finds her, floats it over the top. Daly to Pantling. Katma makes the move, skips past the shoulder of Epstein. Harms cuts to the front corner, but it comes out low for Katma. Again, good offensive flow. They were holding it together until they weren't.
Yeah, Katma trying to get low on that, but unfortunately it wasn't just release the disc low and kind of keep it up. It was throw it immediately to the ground.
Tenkat sends that down the line to Dam. Dam wants the dump, has Tenkat, but also has Slob, goes to Slob instead. Calls for it back, middle of the pitch. There's the reset. Swinging it across, Martin Brouwer. Brouwer, not looking to force anything, so it goes to Morrison. Really tuckering out this Lemmings defense. Epstein, smooth swing across. Taken in well by Slob. Huge layout bid, fantastic display by Andrews. I assume he got a touch, but the way the disc flew, I'm a little confused about what kind of a touch it was. We're gonna have another look. And Andrews has to call an injury. Mark Lou's going to come on and replace him. But that gets a clapping salute as he walks off. Hobbles off.
I think he might have a gentleman's injury there. Need to take a quick sub, but a hero in these final points. Getting the possession back. Otherwise, what almost certainly would have been a threat for GRUT to take the game. Lemmings now just looking to stay in it. Can they keep the dream alive?
Wilson across to Daly. Daly floats one up. Pantling is there. She has been a superhero in these closing exchanges with some fantastic rescue grabs. That's a snag by Wilson himself. Mark Lou maybe a little bit too close to Daly. Lots of pressure coming on in the force from Suzanne Slob. And a big grab by Lola Dam, that's what she does. Lays traps, turns on the Jets and steals possession away. I mean, it's how they won Euros last year. Good chance it's how they'll win Euros this year as well. Slob. Epstein calling for it. That stall count's got to be getting pretty high at this point. Eventually gets it to Dam. That was a very long 10 seconds, but Dam shoots it across and it is comfortably collected in the end. Frankentenkat gets it, 15-10, the finishing score. GRUT march on.
Yeah, it feels fitting that last sort of interception, getting the disc back for GRUT to put it in for the win was an interception run through by Lola Dam. It was quite an ambitious shot from Lemmings, trying to get that kind of crossfield, big gainer. Dam read it perfectly, and then you see here again, playing such an instrumental role, getting free under a lot of pressure from Lemmings, and ultimately finding that cutter in the end zone, and for a picture-perfect pass for the score. Lemmings, in this game the whole way through, I really, I can't commend them enough. I think the sort of the mental toughness and the mentality part of so many teams can actually ultimately be their downfall, regardless of the skills and the talent that they have. And I just think for Lemmings, they really demonstrated how you play a game even when you're down. And there will be lessons they can learn from that, things they can tighten up within their game. We've spoken about how if they manage to kind of make their long shots more of a realistic threat, get some of those throws out with a bit more precision, that game could have been, in the early stages, looking very, very different, and from there, who knows. But just amazing how they kept working, kept focused, and now we can see here some of the stats from the match. So Lemmings had 7 clean holds, and GRUT only had 3. So despite coming away with the win by a decent margin, GRUT only managed to have a clean hold 3 times in that game. Lemmings getting those turns, but just struggling to convert them. Only managing to get 2 breaks on GRUT against their 7.
And that's the real surprising flip, and probably what contributed to us thinking it was such a close game overall. Lemmings get twice as many, a little bit more clean holds than GRUT. GRUT get over 3 times as many breaks. So maybe GRUT have a couple of things they need to clean up. Lemmings, like you say, have a lot of lessons they can carry with them. They will be going forward into a crossover game tomorrow morning. That crossover game, we still don't really know who they're going to face. Tartu Turbulence are just about ahead of Leftovers. I think Deep Space are 1 point up on Monkeys Grenoble, so any of those 3 teams could still top the pool, depending on a couple of funky mathematics. But right now, we've got to say thank you to everybody for joining us. We've still got some more action. One last game. It's in the open division. They are the all-so-crucial crossovers. On this pitch will be Jet Set Ultimate Open from Belgium, taking on Uprising from Poland. And on the other pitch where we just saw, I actually won't spoiler it, but Shout against Iceni had a fantastic game. We'll leave it there. And coming up next will be Chevron Action Flash taking on Panthers Burn. All of that action kicking off in just about 20 minutes, starting at 1/2 the hour. Wherever in the world you are, there's only one place you need to be looking, and that's right here on ulti.TV YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining us. On behalf of myself, Lorcan Murray, the wonderful Rachel Douglas. Keep it here. Keep it ulti.TV.
Thanks.
Merci beaucoup.
Yeah, ultimate.
ulti.TV.